y'all, Dixie here. Today I want to talk to you about what I wore during my PCT through hike. If you're preparing for a through hike or a section hike, you might be wondering, am I going to be too hot in the things that I'm thinking about taking, or too cold? Am I taking too much or too little? Those are things that I worried about along the way. So I figured I could share with y'all what worked for me, what didn't, and what I wore during different types of weather and temperatures. So first I want to start out with things that I had the whole time. The first thing that I carried the entire PCT is my black puffy coat. It is a Mountain Hardwear Ghost Whisper down coat. It was very lightweight, and honestly when I first got it and put it on, I'm like, is this thing actually gonna be warm enough? Because it just didn't seem like real fluffy like. But it actually was very warm. When I wasn't too cold at night and didn't want to sleep with it, because I am a pretty cold sleeper, I would ball it up and kind of use it as a pillow. So even during the warmer days and warmer nights, I still kept it with me, because especially through the desert, you know, you think, oh, it's the desert, it's just gonna be scalding hot the whole time, but the truth is the nights can get pretty chilly, and there was a very cold snap that happened right towards the end of the desert, and I had almost sent home my puffy, so I was really glad that I didn't. So if you get kind of chilly, I'd recommend probably hanging on to yours just in case. Next is my Columbia PFG shirt. So it was just a button-up top that was well ventilated in the back. It was thin, but it kept my arms protected from the sun, and it was well ventilated enough. So even though I was walking through the desert on very hot days, I was still able to get some airflow through. Next is my Patagonia Barely Baggy shorts. So I actually wore a pair just like these on the Appalachian Trail, and then they worked out so well, didn't get any holes in them, they never ripped, so I got the same pair for the PCT. I actually ended up busting the seam down the back of them while I was in the Sierra Nevada, but I just stitched them up with some floss I had in my pack, and they lasted me the whole time. That was the only issue I ever had with them, but even with my stitching job, you know, I never had any other trouble out of them. And I plan on hiking in the same shorts on the CDT. Next is my raincoat. So for a little while I had an Outdoor Research helium coat. It doesn't have any pit zips, but it is very lightweight. One of the features that I did like about it was it had a little bill on the hood of the coat, so when it was raining, it wasn't like you were still getting water in your face too much, because your face was shielded from the bill of the hood a little bit. After I lost my Outdoor Research coat, I ended up swapping to the anti-gravity gear rain jacket. It's actually cheaper and lighter, and one of the things that I really liked about it is that it has pit zips. So even though, you know, while you're hiking in the rain, you've got cold rain falling on you, while you're moving, you know, you start sweating. So it's really nice to have those pit zips just to help regulate the temperature. But unfortunately, it didn't have the little bill on the hood, so, you know, trade-offs. For socks, I carried 2 to 4 pair at any given time. Like, for example, if up in the Cascades it was raining a lot and I wanted to be able to put on clean, dry socks every day just to help boost my morale, or, you know, in the desert, if it was real dusty, I might carry 2 pair to hike in just to, you know, wash one pair, let the other one dry, and then just kind of rotate out like that. I think it's important to keep 1 pair of socks dry and warm to sleep in. You just don't want to be put in that situation where all of your pairs of socks are soaked and your feet are freezing while you're trying to sleep at night. Now the socks that I wore, all of them were wool, but they varied in a lot of ways. So I wore the Gingy brand, I wore Smart Wools, and I wore Darn Toughs. And they might range from higher socks down to like no-show ankle socks, just depending on the weather, the temperature. For example, if it's cold, I'm more likely to wear longer socks, whereas in the middle of the summer and the heat, I might wear more ankle socks. For underwear, I wear the Ex Officio brand, and I always take 2 pair. I figure 2 pair of underwear will last 4 days, so you can wear them one way, turn them inside out the next day, and then start on the next pair. And when you start with the second pair on the 3rd day, you can go ahead and wash that first pair and then hang it on your pack to dry or whatever, so you have it for, you know, the 5th day. I only carried 1 sports bra, and I actually get it at Academy Sports and Outdoors. I took 2 sports bras on the AT and learned that, you know, I'm gonna stink anyway, and just to save some ounces, like, it's really not worth it to me. So I just stick with 1 sports bra, wear it every day, take it off while I sleep, and, you know, I wash it while I'm in town. For sleeping, I carried a pair of Smart Wool leggings, and a long sleeve Arc'teryx shirt. Now, the leggings that I used were actually pretty thin and I was worried that I might get cold in them, but they worked out fine. The Arc'teryx shirt I really liked because it was kind of fuzzy on the inside and it had like this high neck on it with a zipper, so you could zip down or up to like regulate the temperature. And it just all around was warm and nice. The only thing that could have made the Arc'teryx shirt better for me is if it had thumb holes. I really do like having a long sleeve shirt with thumb holes in it to sleep in. So you might be wondering, wait a second, you carried the leggings and the long sleeve shirt all the way through the desert? Yes, because like I said, you can get a cold snap anytime, even when it's just blistering hot out and you think there's no way it's gonna get cold. The desert is very volatile when it comes to temperature, so you just never know. And if it is too hot one night, you don't have to sleep in that stuff. You can sleep in nothing, or I would sleep in my undergarments. So just whatever works for you. All right, so some of the section-specific things that I wore or took in the desert, for example, I started off carrying a town dress. I thought that, like on the AT, I was gonna want to take a town dress with me. It was just a little cotton dress, something that I could put on and wash everything I had and not have to worry about wearing, rain gear and a towel and, just trying to make do. But to save some weight, because I was having to carry so much water, I ended up sending the town dress home. And it's funny because I think with more and more experience, you learn to let go of certain things that you think that you never will. And so the town dress was one of those things for me. I also carried a beanie and gloves with me in the desert. I ended up losing the gloves later in the Sierra Nevada on Mount Whitney and actually didn't get them back for a long while, not even through the Sierra Nevada. And I think I sent the beanie home somewhere around the desert. I just decided that it really wasn't doing much for me because, I had my puffy coat and a hood, and then I also had my raincoat to hike in if it was a little windy and chilly during the day, which also had a hood. In the Sierra Nevada, I ended up picking up a cap, so like just a regular old ball cap, to keep the sun out of my face. I sent home my umbrella, so I ended up wanting a cap to help protect my face from the sun. And then I also picked up a pair of anti-gravity gear rain breeches. I really liked them because they were nice and long. They had a drawstring and they had these little Velcro straps at the bottom that you could tighten the bottom of the pants, to your ankle if you wanted to. Didn't get a whole lot of rain in the Sierra Nevada or anything like that, but they were nice to have when I would glissade because I only had shorts, and I definitely don't recommend, if you're gonna glissade, doing so in shorts. Some areas might be fine, but other areas are gonna tear your legs up. Now in the Cascades, I ended up picking up several items and actually had wished that I would have had a couple more. The Pacific Northwest fall can be very wet and very, very cold. It's basically winter. So if you're gonna be there in late September and early October, be prepared to be wet and cold. I ended up picking up a neck warmer, an ear warmer, and actually I think that those work better than the beanies because they, kind of wrap around like a headband. And my hair always seems to move and kind of like make the beanie kind of pop off. So if I have a hood from my raincoat or my puffy and I have that ear warmer, it seems like it's enough. I also picked up some cheap, thin leggings from a gas station. I needed something more for my legs because I only had the shorts and the rain pants, but it just wasn't enough. I was cold. So I got an extra little pair of leggings to hike in. That way I still had my other leggings for when I slept at night. I did wish that I would have had another base layer top. I had my PFG shirt, but like I said, I was still just cold. So I really wish that I had had some other layer for my top while I was having a hike in the cold and rain. Also, some nice gloves for dealing with the rain would have been great. My hands were absolutely freezing. Finally, I ended up getting an extra pair of socks, and Perk and I used either grocery sacks or some Ziploc bags and just kind of tucked them in, and that worked pretty well. So those are the items that I had with me either the whole time or, at some point during the trail, depending on where I was. Now, if you'll notice, none of those items are cotton, and you always hear that cotton kills, and it's not that, cotton crawls up to your neck while you're sleeping and strangles you, but it's just that cotton can stay wet for a long time. It doesn't dry easily, which can cause chafing or, even hypothermia if you're trying to sleep in cold, wet cotton. So synthetic materials just seem to work better. They wick away the moisture and they dry a lot faster. Everyone's budget is different, so if some of the items in my list seem to be a little pricey, the point isn't, that you have to have the best name brand things. I mean, like I said, in the Cascades, I got some cheap $10 leggings from a gas station. You know, it's more or less the material and that it fits you right, it feels good, and you know, it's gonna keep you warm or cool or whatever purpose it needs to serve. If you're thinking that this list might seem a little skimpy, or you're like, well, how do you have enough clothes for every situation with what you listed, Dixie? Well, it's called layering. So you just use these different pieces of gear basically together or alone, you know, just whatever works for the temperature and weather. For when it was warm and clear, I probably just had on my PFG top and my Patagonia shorts. When it was clear and cold, I was probably wearing my PFG top, Patagonia shorts, and depending on how cold, you know, if it's just a little windy and cool, probably my rain jacket to act as a windbreaker. And then there were times when I might even hike in my puffy if, you know, I knew that it wasn't gonna rain. And the leggings, you know, could, I get real careful because you don't wanna sweat in something and then have to wear it to sleep that night. But if you're sweating, chances are you're not gonna wanna be hiking in a puffy coat anyway, so you'll probably take it off. If it was raining and warm, chances are I would just have on my PFG shirt, Patagonia shorts, and my raincoat. And if, you know, it was like not too warm and it was a little cool, then I might wear the rain pants also. If it was raining and cold, like up in the Cascades, then I would have on shirt, shorts, those leggings that I was talking about, my rain pants, and my raincoat, and wishing that I had another base layer to put on. And then maybe that neck warmer and the ear warmer, just depending on if I wanted to sleep in those that night or not. And if it was snowing and cold, then I probably had on about the same thing that I was wearing while it was raining and cold, because, you know, snow, once it hits your body and warms up, melts and turns to water. So that's the way that I tend to work, you know, the clothes that I have and make them work for the situation that I'm in. You're gonna find out what works for you. Chances are it won't be exactly what I had, but at least this gives you an idea of what I did and what worked for me. As long as you have your bases covered and you make sure that you are warm enough when you sleep at night. And from one town to the next, you're not gonna be in a stretch much longer than, you know, 3 to 7 days at the max. And you can make adjustments, and the longer you're on the trail, the longer you're gonna know what works for you. If you have any questions about any of the things that I wore or that I wish I had had with me on trail, please feel free to share that in the comments below and I will get to those. And thank y'all so much for watching. We will see y'all next time.